Hi there, thanks for joining me for a quick drawing session. Today I'll be illustrating the Eirsat 1, Ireland's first satellite. I'll be working digitally using a drawing tablet and Photoshop. First up, I do some sketching. This stage is really about figuring out the shape and design of the satellite, then deciding what angle or composition will work best for the final illustration. So pretty much, I do a bunch of drawings and pick my favourite. The Eirsat 1 is what's known as a CubeSat, and its basic shape is a box, small one too, only about 20 centimetres tall. Once you've got this basic box shape drawn, you can add in details like the frame at the edges, the side panels, and the 4 antennae at the base. I like the sketching stage as it really helps you understand what you're drawing, and you can be as messy as you want. Once I've gotten a feel for the design, I sketch it up more thoroughly, marking out the details and paying attention to the dimensions. It's handy to do any problem solving needed here. If you figure it out now, it'll save time later on. I tend not to worry too much about adding all the details at this stage, but it's helpful to give an impression of where they'll be. I sketch in the design of the side panels, trying to keep it as symmetrical as possible to match the reference photos. I'm trying to keep this drawing quite technically accurate, but how you draw it is really up to you. Next up is inking. Inking, or line art, is when you clean up your drawing. Inking lets you add your own flair to the drawing, but I'll keep it simple today. I'm focusing mainly on getting a neater version than the sketch, with cleaner, sharper line work and a greater attention to detail. Basically, it's going to decide how the final illustration will look. Little details like this can be quite footery to draw, but including them helps the overall definition of the satellite. Here, I'm inking and cleaning up the design at the top, which was just loosely sketched in earlier. The satellite design features several basic shapes in its structure. I try and spend time during the inking to make sure that these look right. Straight edges and clean lines are key. It helps someone looking at it to identify it as a man-made object, rather than something organic you'd find in nature. Drawing something like a plant would have a lot more curves and wiggly edges. Drawing components like the panels can get a bit repetitive, but I also find it quite calming. Inking helps to define the details of your illustration, like here with the antenna at the base of the satellite. This was just roughly marked out in the previous sketch, so I have to work it up more now. With inking done, it's on to the colouring. I start off with some basic colour blocking, identifying the distinct parts of the satellite, such as the side panels and EMOD at the top, and adding areas of solid colour. This speeds up the colouring process, allowing me to build up the colour details along the way. This is another part of the process I find relaxing. I don't have to worry too much about getting the colours right, because it's easy to change them later on when drawing digitally. Right now, it's about finding those basic colour blocks within the design and bringing them forward, and finding the areas of light and dark. For example, the frames along the edges are a lighter colour than the main satellite box. I've tried to match this to reference photos like the one in the corner. I focused on the exterior of the satellite for this drawing, but here's a quick look inside the Eirsat 1. There's a lot of complicated components inside, like the Gmod and Emod, but all are important for the satellite to work. Often when drawing, it's good to know what's going on behind the scenes of your subject, as it can help inform the overall illustration. Back to the drawing, and I'm working on adding more colour detail and bringing the satellite to life. I've chosen a colour palette based on the real satellite, but I'm sure the Eirsat team would like to see some super colourful versions. Might even give them ideas for the Eirsat too. Just to mention, this component at the top is the N-Biome module, or EMOD. I'll admit the design reminds me a bit of a Battenberg cake, and always leaves me rather hungry when I draw this part. With the main colouring done and the drawing nearly complete, I add some extra texture and shading to the piece, just to finish it off. I've kept this satellite illustration quite straightforward, but when you're drawing, feel free to make it as big, bold and brightly coloured as you want. And with a final bit of cleaning up, we've got a finished satellite. A satellite should of course be in space, so we'll add in a background I prepared earlier. And there we go, the Eirsat 1 all done. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.